Before machines, people kept ice all summer. This story is in easy English. Relax and enjoy. Listen for one question: why did big ice last longer? Onto the ice. The first job on the ice was not cutting. It was sweeping snow. It was winter long ago on a lake in the north. A horse pulled a wide scraper and men walked behind. Why sweep a lake? Because snow is a warm blanket. Under snow, ice grows slowly. Under the open sky, ice grows thick and clear. So the men swept first. Then they waited for the ice to grow. How thick was thick enough? People did not agree. Somewhere between 6 inches and a foot and a half, about 15 to 45 centimeters, depending on who you ask. At last the ice was ready. Now the horse pulled a plow, a heavy frame with steel teeth. The plow cut a long, straight line. They drove it again and again, a little deeper each time. Then they cut lines the other way. Soon the lake looked like a giant chessboard, but they never cut all the way through. They left the bottom uncut, so the lake stayed in one piece. Remember that. For the last cut, a man used a long saw. The saw was very long. One end went down into the water. He pushed and pulled, pushed and pulled. Then one big square came free and it floated, a block of ice. Each block was about 2 feet across, as heavy as 2 grown men. To hold a block, men used ironed tongs, a tool with 2 strong metal arms, but nobody carried these blocks far. Here is the trick: you do not carry ice, you push it. Language Spotlight Part 1. Sometimes the old books do not agree. English has kind ways to say this. Listen, the ice was somewhere between 6 inches and a foot and a half thick. Somewhere between, you give 2 ends, not one number. And it depends on who you ask. Honest and still clear. Try them this week. The men cut a road in the ice, a road of open water. It went from the field to the ice house on the shore. The blocks floated along it in a slow white line. Men walked beside them with long wooden poles. A pole could be 16 feet long because you push ice from far away, never up close. At the end of the road, a chain caught each block and carried it up into the building. Why square blocks? Why not just break the ice into rough pieces? Because round pieces leave holes. Square blocks do not. They sit close, side against side. A pile of square blocks holds much less air inside. Remember the plow? It made every block the same size. Same size, no holes, no air. That was the real secret. But the secret needed one more helper, a strange one. Near the lake stood sawmills. A sawmill cuts trees into boards, and it makes a problem: sawdust, soft wood powder. Mountains of it behind every mill. Nobody wanted it, but the ice men took it. They packed sawdust between the blocks, around the pile, and on top in a thick coat, and the ice lasted. Here is the surprise: the wood was not the true helper. Sawdust is mostly air, tiny pockets of air trapped in the powder. Air carries heat very slowly. The real coat was air. But sawdust has one enemy, water. Dry sawdust slows heat. Wet sawdust lets heat walk right through, and melting ice makes water. If that water stays under the pile, it eats the ice from below. So every ice house had a hole at the bottom, a drain not to keep cold in, but to let water out. The ice had to be saved from itself. The ice house itself was a box inside a box. There was an outer wall of wood. Inside it stood a second wall, and between the two walls, sawdust. The gap was wide. Why build a house this way? A museum gives the reason in plain words. Keep the outside of the pile small and the ice melts slowly. One big pile, one small skin. Ice in a house like this lasted many months, sometimes more than a year. A Spotlight Part 2. Sometimes we only know what people said. At one ice house, the men said some ice was 5 years old. They said it was still as good as new. They said 2 small words. They show it is the men's story, not ours. That is careful, honest English. Could ice live outside with no house at all? One winter, 1846 to 1847, men worked on a pond in New England. On a good day, they took out 1,000 tons of ice. They could not ship it all. So they built one great pile about 10,000 tons. On one side it stood 35 feet high, like a 3-floor building. They covered it with hay and boards. That was all. The next July, the roof came off. Some ice was taken away. The rest stood in the open sun, through summer, through winter. It did not fully melt until September 1848. A man who lived by that pond wrote it all down. One last test, the sea. In May 1833, a ship left a cold port. Inside lay about 180 tons of ice. The blocks sat tight, side against side. Sawdust filled every gap. Then the doors closed. The ship sailed for about 4 months across warm seas. In a hot port on the other side of the world, the doors opened. About 100 tons were still there, still hard, still cold. Men lifted the blocks out with tongs into the burning sun. Now, one idea to take home. Size changes the rules. Break a block of ice into small pieces and it is gone by night. Build 10,000 tons into one pile and most of it is still there 2 summers later. Nothing else changed. No machine, no electricity. Only the size. Big ice, packed close, becomes its own wall. Sometimes the answer is not a new tool. Sometimes it is simply bigger and closer together. Time to look back. 1. What was the first job on the lake, cutting or sweeping? 2. Why did the plow stop before the bottom? 3. How did men move the blocks, carry or push with poles? And last, the ship left with about 180 tons. How many arrived? Say your answers out loud. Good work today. Tomorrow, listen again. Stop after each part and say one short sentence. The saw, the sawdust, the pile. A story gives new words a home. Next time, another true story is waiting. Thank you for listening. See you there.